With its debut in 1987, Final Fantasy has consistently managed to push the boundaries of JRPGs with memorable stories, cutting-edge visuals, and breathtaking music. As the highly anticipated new chapter, Final Fantasy XVI continues to expand on the series' legacy with an immersive world that will fully be able to explore, new characters that will bring the story to life, and a full real-time combat system that marks this latest entry as the beginning of a new era. In this video, I'll cover everything we know about Square Enix's new gem, from its massive story arc to some of the interesting characters and spectacular Eikon Battles. This could easily define the future of the entire franchise. Without further ado, let's jump into the world of Final Fantasy XVI. The game will take us to a world called Valisthea, a land blessed by the light of ancient artifacts called Mother Crystals, which are glittering mountains that tower over each of the realms, blessing them with their magical energy called Ether. For generations, people have flocked to these beacons to take advantage of this blessing, using the ether to conjure magic that lets them live a life of comfort and plenty. However, the power of the ether began to dwindle over the years, fading more and more as time passed. With this energy waning, the dark and lifeless parts of the world where the light of the Mother Crystals could not reach, known as Deadlands, began spreading like a plague, threatening to engulf the territories of the Realms of Valisthea, and causing them to engage in a struggle for possession of the final flickers of the Mother's light. With an imminent conflict that might change the world forever, there are those who believe that the legacy of the crystals has shaped mankind's destiny for long enough, seeing this war as an opportunity to build a new world. Within this unstable political setting, the greatest forces used to contend the dominion of the new world are the Eikons, the most powerful and deadly creatures in Valisthea. Each Eikon resides within a dominant, a single man or woman who is blessed with the ability to call upon their power. In some nations of Valisthea, these dominants are treated as royalty in admiration of their strength and influence, while in others they are treated with fear and forced to serve as tools for war. Regardless of where they were born or who they might be, those who are chosen as dominants cannot escape their fate, no matter how cruel it is. I am sure that fans of the franchise have most likely recognized that Eikons are Final Fantasy XVI's take on the summons that have pretty much defined the IP throughout its history. We have seen footage of Phoenix and Ifrit for fire, Ramuh for lightning, Shiva for ice, Garuda for wind, and Titan for earth, as well as the non-elemental aligned Odin and Bahamut. We also know that this time around we'll be able to control some of them in massive battles of epic proportions, but more on that later in the video. In addition to dominants, another category of people that have a major impact on society are called bearers, individuals that possess the unique ability to use magic without relying on the energy of the Mother Crystals. The fate of these people largely depends on the realm in which they're born, since some greatly values magic as a resource while others shun it out of fear. As the game's story unfolds, we'll follow the journey of Clive Rosfield, a young knight from the Grand Duchy of Rosaria. Being the firstborn son of the Archduke, Clive was expected to inherit the Phoenix Flames and awaken as its dominant, but destiny chose his younger brother Joshua to bear this burden. With his future no longer driven by expectations of being a dominant, Clive dedicates himself to mastering the blade and becomes the greatest fighter of the Grand Duchy. At the age of 15, he manages to win the ducal tournament and gains the title of First Shield of Rosaria, becoming the warrior tasked to protect the Phoenix Dominant and blessed with the ability to wield part of his power. The main story will be divided into 3 major chapters. We'll start with Clive in his 20s, but at a certain point, we'll see the events that led him to gain his title during his teenage years through a fully playable flashback. We'll then finish the journey across the world of Valisthea with a more experienced Clive having passed his 30s. Although we do not know how the realms will change through the course of the storyline, we can definitely take a look at how Valisthea is divided before we begin our journey. The first and likely most important of the 6 realms is the Grand Duchy of Rosaria, which is the home of the main character. Rosaria was born long ago, when a group of small independent provinces in western Valisthea decided to unite and formed the Grand Duchy. After years of relative prosperity, the realm finds itself threatened by the spread of the Deadlands that could bring ruin and misery to the safety its people enjoyed for so long. Rosaria draws its ether from Drake's Breath, a mother crystal situated on a volcanic island off the coast. The dominant of the Phoenix, which is the icon of fire, is usually enthroned as Archduke when they come of age. We know in this case that this responsibility would fall on Clive's brother Joshua, but is still too young to rise to power, and we do not really know whether Rosaria survives long enough to actually see these events happen. If you have played the previous Final Fantasy games, you know that it usually does not bode well for the home of the main character. Notable characters that are a part of Rosaria are Clive and Joshua Rosfield that we already mentioned, as well as a woman named Jill Warwick. Born in the fallen Northern Territories, Jill was taken from her home at a tender age and became a ward of Rosaria. The Archduke insisted that she be raised alongside his sons, which made her a part of the Rosfield household almost as much as Clive and Joshua. However, the events of the storyline will see the three characters torn apart, which will also cause the freezing powers of the icon Shiva to awaken within Jill, turning her into a dominant. Although he is not technically a character, our faithful four-legged companion named Torgal is another outcast from the Northern Territories taken in by House Rosfield. Torgal was found alone in a snowfield during one of the Archduke expeditions to the freezing north, and was then gifted to his sons upon his return. After the events that befell his adoptive house, he was reunited with Clive over a decade later, and now helps his master with the same fierce loyalty he did when he was only a pup. Next is the Holy Empire of Sanbreque, which is the largest theocratic force in Valisthea that I hope I'm pronouncing right. The Empire's holy capital Oriflamme is built around Drake's head, the mother crystal that blesses the surrounding provinces with abundant aether. The people of the Empire happily take advantage of this power, living in comfort and security under the watchful gaze of the Holy Emperor, whom they worship as the living incarnation of the one true deity. The dominant of Bahamut, also called the Warden of Light, serves as the Empire's champion, going personally into battle as the banners of war start to rise on Valisthea. A notable character that is a part of this realm is Dion Lesage, which I'm deliberately choosing to pronounce in French because everything else makes less sense to my ears. Dion is the crown prince of the Holy Empire and the leader of its greater order of knights known as the Dragoons. He is loved and respected by both his people and his troops thanks to his valor in battle that has often managed to turn the tide in his favor. It is very common to hear songs about the deeds of the warrior prince and his Eikon Bahamut, King of Dragons, in most taverns around the Empire. However, the darkness that is spreading over Valisthea could even threaten a light as intense as the one carried by its warden. Indomitable in its isolation, the Kingdom of Waloed extends for the entirety of Ash, the eastern half of Valisthea. The kingdom's control of the continent has often been tested by orcs and other beastmen who make their home there, but the current ruler of the realm and dominant of Odin has succeeded in quelling their rebellions. Using the power of the kingdom's mother crystal, referred to as Drake's Spine, this new king has managed to build up a mighty army, with which is now capable of testing the borders of his neighbors. There are three notable characters that belong to this kingdom. The first is Benedicta Harman, a cold-hearted and ruthless woman who is the dominant of the icon Garuda and Warden of the Wind. With rigorous training, Benedicta turned her talent for swordplay and subterfuge into a tool she uses to take charge of Waloed's elite intelligence. On a mission to find the elusive second icon of fire, she crosses paths with a like-minded Clive and is forced to face her past with his help. The second character is Barnabas Thermer, who arrives on the shores of Ash as a landless and titless wanderer who was able to secure an entire kingdom thanks to his skills with the blade. Despite beastmen rising in revolt against his rule, Barnabas called on the power of his icon Odin and managed to quell their rebellion almost single-handedly, bringing the entirety of the eastern continent under the Waloed banner. With an army and a navy that can rival any in Valisthea, this fierce warrior rides into battle with his spectral steed, and conquers his foes with his fabled black blade, but no one knows what his real motives might be. The third character tied to this realm is Sidolphus Tilamon, shortened by everyone to Sid, which is the recurring name in the Final Fantasy franchise that we have grown to know and love. This ex-soldier turned outlaw strives to build a place where persecuted bearers and exploited dominants can live their life on their own terms. A man of science, he often conducts research on how it might be possible to live in the Deadlands, since that's where he and his group of outcasts are bound to live. Sid is also a dominant, with the power of the Eikon Ramu answering his call shortly after he landed on Valisthean shores. Making its home within the desertic regions of Valisthea, the Dhalmekian Republic is made up of 5 states, governed by a ruling parliament formed from a member of each state. Its mother crystal Drake's Fang is half hidden in the heart of a mountain under the Republic's control. This realm is known to be versed in the arts of trading and commerce, which makes it amongst the most powerful economical forces of the world. A notable character belonging to this realm is Hugo Kapka, who managed to climb the social ladder in the blink of an eye. Once a nameless foot soldier in the Republican army, his awakening as dominant of Titan thrust him to the forefront of Dhalmekian politics. He then managed to use his newfound position as the most powerful man in the Republic to exert influence over both the army and the parliament, amassing a personal fortune that few others in the Republic can hope to match. Although Hugo initially believes he already has everything he wants, Benedicta Harman will teach him that money and power are not the only things that the world has to offer. The western half of Valisthea is home to the Iron Kingdom, a small group of islands off the coast of Storm. It is here that an extreme faith worshipping crystals called Crystalline Orthodox reigns supreme. The Iron Kingdom controls Drake's Breath, the mother crystal that sits at the heart of one of their islands, and that has been fought over with the Grand Duchy of Rosaria for a long time. Being isolated from the mainland nations, the natives of the Iron Kingdom call themselves Iron Blood and speak their own language. Orthodox doctrine believes that dominants are nothing but unholy abominations, and anyone born and found on the islands is immediately executed. As of right now, we do not know of any character that might come from this realm. Judging from the story we know, and considering we play as the brother of a dominant, I believe we will be in open hostility with the Iron Kingdom for pretty much the entire adventure. The sixth and final realm is the Crystalline Dominion, sitting at the heart of Valisthea and built around the tallest of all mother crystals called Drake's Tail. This relatively small land has been contested between all realms over the course of history due to its strategic importance. After decades of war, the leaders of the realms of Valisthea signed a peace treaty that made the islands around Drake's Tail an autonomous region led by a council of representatives from all surrounding nations, with each realm enjoying an equal claim over the Mother Crystal's blessings. Although I believe the Crystalline Dominion will hide a huge secret or some sort of a big plot twist within the story, there are no notable characters or dominants that make their home there. Now that we have taken a deep look at the setting in which Clive's adventure is going to take place, let's see what features we'll be able to enjoy from a gameplay perspective. Although environments look incredibly wide, Final Fantasy XVI is not an open-world game. We'll instead travel around massive and carefully detailed maps that will be fully explorable on foot and riding the mounts we might encounter in our journey, with the famous chocobos being of course part of the kit. Landscapes and environments shown so far look nothing short of incredible, with a level of detail and biome diversity that has always been a huge staple of the Japanese company. From the wide open spaces of grass fields under a blue sky to entire cities torn by war, it is very difficult to remain unimpressed. When it comes to traveling around, we already know that fast travel is accessed via the world map and that we can instantly go to all places we have previously discovered, which is going to be a huge help when retracing our steps. Another gameplay element that we have been given a thorough look at is in-game menus, which look and feel like Final Fantasy. By navigating them, we'll be able to keep track of the character's attributes, gear, and assigned abilities. There are slots to equip weapons, armor and accessories, as well as 3 trinkets like badges or medals, allowing us to customize Clive and make him stronger as the story progresses. We also got to see several accessories that modify gameplay pretty drastically, automating certain aspects of combat like evading incoming attacks or increasing the parry windows when we are about to get hit. This provides the option to smoothen the game difficulty for all players that do not want to focus too much on the real-time aspects that Final Fantasy XVI's combat has chosen to embrace. Before beginning our adventures on Valisthea, the game will have us decide if we want to play normally or go into story mode, which will automatically provide all these accessories from the start. We'll also find these items during gameplay, and the option to use them will remain available even if we decide to turn them down when starting out, so there's no need to worry in case something makes us change our mind. Defeating enemies will also reward us with ability points we can use to unlock the many skills Clive has access to thanks to his unique bond with the Eikons of Valisthea. The system gives a good amount of freedom in choosing what sort of abilities we want to bring in battle, for example choosing between new attacks like spells and special moves or powering up our normal ones. We can also let the game choose the best generic setup for the level we are if that's the way we want to go. Since we have mentioned battles, it's about time we take a look at how combat looks in this game, which is also where lies the biggest change this franchise has seen since it first came out. Combat in Final Fantasy XVI is fully real-time with no exceptions whatsoever. Gone are the times where everything was turn-based, and gone are the menus with their little white hand to select abilities. Clive and his companions will face their opponents in a flashy display of non-stop action, forming prolonged combos of attacks, parries and evasive maneuvers that will keep our blood pumping in our veins for pretty much the entire time. In addition to his martial prowess, Clive's abilities are also fueled by the mystical powers of the Eikons, infusing his attacks with devastating elemental effects that we can easily swap depending on how the battle goes. Whether they get torn apart by Garuda's claws, fried by Ramuh's lightning spears, or crushed under Titan's fists, it looks like enemies will not have as much fun as we will in Final Fantasy XVI. Although there is no doubt in my mind that such a monumental change will disappoint many hardcore fans of classical turn-based combat, I believe this was an inevitable step towards pushing the Final Fantasy franchise into the modern era. Both Final Fantasy XV and Final Fantasy VII Remake already exhibited a hybrid system that tried to maintain some combat menus while keeping things fresh with real-time action, so it is only natural to see the new chapter fully shed its classical skin and go all out on its action-driven nature. Another interesting aspect related to combat is tied to the allied characters that will accompany Clive during his adventure. Players will only get to manually control the main character, leaving the others to the decisions of an AI specifically designed to support the chosen playstyle. However, it looks like we will be able to give our furry companion Torgal direct commands, but I believe it's going to be limited to generic inputs like switching between attack, defense, or support mode. Gameplay in Final Fantasy XVI will also include a variety of different features that we'll get to interact with as we progress through the main story. For example, we have been given a preview of Seed's Hideaway, a hub-style area packed with a whole bunch of NPCs like a vendor to buy new gear or a blacksmith to improve items we own, providing some means to spend our hard-earned gills. This hub is also where we can access the Arete Stone, which will send us into a virtual training area where we can practice our combos and learn how to use the different abilities we'll progressively acquire as we level up. Should you fancy some competition, the Arete Stone can also be played in arcade mode to compete in a global leaderboard with other players from around the world. Returning from previous chapters of the franchise, the Hunt board will give us the location of powerful threats that we can eliminate to collect bounties for specific rewards, provided we actually manage to defeat them, of course. As we travel around Valisthea, we will also encounter many different side quests that we'll get to complete in order to gain experience and other rewards while learning more about its story, culture, and the people we're fighting to protect, giving us a deeper look at how we're changing the lives of those around us, hopefully for the best. All bits of lore and knowledge we discover in our travels is gathered within the 1000 tomes, which are basically a codex that contains all sorts of information regarding characters, icons, major events in the story, and much more. As Valisthea changes due to our actions, we can also take a look at the state of the realm, where we can keep track of all key players involved in its evolving political situations. Last but definitely not least, a huge feature of Final Fantasy XVI is tied to the real-time battles in which icons test their might against each other. We do not have many details regarding how these showdowns actually work, but it looks like each has its own mechanics and cinematic flavor in order to make every confrontation feel unique and spectacular. From a purely visual standpoint, it's easily the most impressive display of awesomeness I have seen in years, and I really hope they are as interesting to play as they are to look at. There's an undeniable fascination in seeing huge creatures clash with earth-shattering explosions, and I look forward to the adrenaline rush they offer. With its many features and carefully detailed world, Final Fantasy XVI promises countless hours of deep and immersive gameplay, as we experience Clive's story and fight to protect the world from the darkness that threatens to engulf it. Whether we succeed in saving the Mother Crystals or fail to prevent the worst from happening, the future of Valisthea and all of its people lie in our hands. Thank you so much for sticking with me until the end of this preview. Make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for updates on Final Fantasy XVI and the other games I cover, since 2023 is looking like an amazing year for gamers and there will be plenty more to look at. In the meantime, thanks again for watching, stay safe, and I'll see you in the next one.